Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, what played out a short time ago, the White House standoff over that wrongly deported immigrant sent to that notorious prison in El Salvador. Also tonight, the man in a gas mask armed with pepper spray storming into a courthouse in the Northeast. And a passenger jet, the flames you'll see shooting from the engine in the air after what they call a possible rabbit strike. First tonight, the heated showdown between the White House and the courts over a mistakenly deported husband and father taken to that notorious prison in El Salvador. Following the Supreme Court's unanimous 9-0 ruling to facilitate his return, he's still not back. And tonight, a federal judge scolding the Trump administration, saying it has done nothing to facilitate his return. The images coming in tonight, police racing to the scene of a high school shooting in Dallas. Dozens of students seen running from the school. The United Airlines flight with flames spotted shooting from an engine just after takeoff. The pilot reporting a possible rabbit strike. Did a rabbit crawl into the engine right before takeoff? The chilling video showing a man wearing a gas mask storming into a courthouse. The news late today, a top aide to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth placed on leave, escorted from the Pentagon amid a leak investigation. Martha Raddatz standing by and what she's learned. Tonight, the battle escalating between President Trump and Harvard. Harvard rejecting the president's demand, saying no government, regardless of party, should dictate what private universities can teach and do. Tonight, the president now freezing more than $2 billion in federal funding. Tonight, the new CDC report on the autism rate here in the U.S., 1 in 31 children in America, and what's driving this. The $5 million jewelry store heist, the hole in the wall, how they got in. Look at this tonight. More than 30 endangered right whales spotted off Cape Cod, one of them struggling in the water. Also tonight here, remembering a popular game show host and what the elephants did during the California earthquake, the circle they formed, and why they did it. You'll see it right here.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. We begin tonight with the heated showdown late today between the Trump administration and the courts over a wrongfully deported Maryland man, the husband and father sent to that notorious prison in El Salvador. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the Trump administration needed to facilitate his return. And tonight, a federal judge finding the administration has done nothing to comply with the Supreme Court. The judge telling the Trump administration's lawyers, the Supreme Court has spoken, you made your arguments, you lost. This is now about the scope of the remedy. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a husband and father, swept up and accused without evidence of being a member of a violent gang. This image of Abrego Garcia in that prison, head shaved and dressed in white. The Trump administration acknowledged in sending him to that prison it was an administrative error, but now says they can't compel El Salvador to release him. The president of El Salvador in the Oval Office yesterday asked if he'll return the man, saying that's a preposterous question. So Rachel Scott tonight on what a federal judge just told the administration and where this stands tonight.
Tonight, a federal judge chastising the Trump administration, saying they've done, quote, nothing to comply with the Supreme Court's order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a husband and father who lived in Maryland before the administration admits he was mistakenly deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador. This is an image of Abrego Garcia in that high-security mega prison known as Secon, his head shaved, dressed in white. There, 80 inmates are jammed into a single cell. The lights are always on. No books, no visitors. Inmates are never allowed outdoors. Judge Paula Sinise declaring every day Abrego Garcia spends in that prison is a day of further irreparable harm. Today, Justice Department lawyers insisting the administration is prepared to facilitate Abrego Garcia's presence in the United States if he presents at a port of entry. But they argue they cannot compel El Salvador to release him from prison, even though the administration is paying El Salvador more than $6 million to hold him there, along with more than 200 other undocumented immigrants, who they claim, without providing evidence, are members of violent gangs. The Justice Department pointing to these comments in the Oval Office from Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele, a close Trump ally who declared he would not release Abrego Garcia.
Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States?
Today, the judge brushing aside Bukele's words, saying they are not evidence. The White House claims Abrego Garcia, who is from El Salvador, is a gang member.
He illegally came into our country. And so deporting him back to El Salvador was always going to be the end result.
But tonight, the ripple effects of this case being felt across the country. In Fort Madison, Iowa, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley confronted by angry constituents at a town meeting.
You're going to bring that guy back from El Salvador? Why not?
Well, because that's not a power of Congress.
The Supreme Court said to bring him back.
Grassley insisting it's up to El Salvador to send Obrego Garcia home.
The president of that country is not subject to our U.S. Supreme Court.
I'm pissed.
The crowd's frustration on full display.
These people have been sentenced to life imprisonment in a foreign country with no due process.
Trump obey the Supreme Court. Trump's not obeying the Supreme Court. He just ignores them. Yeah.
And tonight, outside court, Obrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer, an American, pleading for his return.
I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive.
The judge is now giving the Trump administration 2 weeks to prove that they are facilitating the return of Obrego Garcia to the United States. At that point, it will have been 3 weeks since the Supreme Court first issued its order. And for all that time, Obrego Garcia will be sitting in that prison in El Salvador. All his family has heard about his condition is what the administration has said, that he's alive and secure, David.
Rachel Scott with late reporting from the White House tonight. Rachel, thank you. Now to the terrifying scene at a Dallas high school. Gunfire inside the school. Law enforcement then rushing to Wilmer Hutchins High School. Students you can see there running to safety. Authorities say one student shot and wounded in what they revealed just moments ago at the same school where they had a shooting nearly a year ago to the day. Maria Villarreal on the scene in Texas.
Tonight, terrified students running out of this Texas high school after multiple shots fired.
We got an active shooter. Wilmer Hutchins High School, we do have reports of one student being one shot.
First responders swarming the scene at Wilmer Hutchins High School in Dallas around lunchtime.
A shooter at the school has reportedly run out of the back of the building.
Authorities say 4 students were injured, 3 of them shot. Police still searching for the shooter. The senior forced to take cover.
We heard a few gunshots and we were still standing there confused, and then we heard more, saw a few students run in, heard a few screams, and we had to go and take cover back in the band room.
Students seen walking out with their hands up. Parents desperate for answers.
I'm glad this is my last child in school and I won't have to go through this anymore.
You might wake up one day and your kids be beside you and the next day they're gone.
David, today's incident comes nearly 1 year to the day of a similar shooting that happened at the same school that you see right behind me. The superintendent telling me that they have spoken to the governor, they have updated him, and he has offered the resources they need to help in this investigation. David?
Maria Villarreal in Texas. Maria, thank you. Now to the United Airlines flight with flames spotted shooting from an engine just after takeoff. The pilot can actually be heard reporting a possible rabbit strike. Of course, the question, how did a rabbit get into the engine before takeoff? And if not a rabbit, what was it? Here's Gio Benitez with the pictures.
Look closely tonight. That's United Flight 2325 packed with passengers bound for Edmonton. Its right engine in flames after officials say a rabbit made it inside during takeoff.
Rabbit through the number 2, that'll do it, all right.
Harrowing video from inside the plane shows the midair scare. Large flames shooting from the engine, the Boeing 737 in the air for just 75 minutes before turning around.
We lost the right motor.
The pilots at one point thinking the fire compromised the landing gear. Scott Wolf was on board.
Someone near the rear of the plane started to shout out that the wing was on fire. Thought to myself all of a sudden, I shouldn't be recording. I should be texting.
On takeoff, the engines are going at their maximum rate, and anything that is in front of them is probably going to get ingested.
And David, that flight landed safely back in Denver. Now in 2024, the FAA says there were more than 20,000 wildlife strikes in the U.S. Only 4 of those were rabbit strikes. David.
Gio Benitez in New York. Gio, thank you. We're going to turn to the chilling scene in a courthouse in Woburn, Massachusetts. A man wearing a gas mask storming in using pepper spray. Here's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, terrifying video of a man storming a Massachusetts courthouse in a helmet and gas mask Monday, firing pepper spray at an officer and rushing in.
The court officer came, just pulled the door shut and just told everybody, get out of the courtroom, get out of the courtroom, run out the back door.
It happened in the city of Woburn, outside Boston. Watch as he pushes through the entryway, sprinting through the metal detectors.
I started to hear screaming and everybody just got up and ran.
Video shows the first officer tackling him from behind, then multiple officers ultimately subduing him.
The bailiffs were really quick and on point with what their training, I guess, is, and they handled the situation right away.
In total, 3 officers were taken to the hospital, all of them later released. Authorities now identifying the suspect as 28-year-old Nicholas Ackerberg from Yarmouth, saying he had 8 cans of pepper spray and 2 smoke canisters on him. He was scheduled to appear in court that same day on several charges, including alleged assault of a 67-year-old man. Tonight, his bail for those cases now revoked.
David, the suspect pleaded not guilty to the charges stemming from this latest incident, and he was taken to the hospital for a mental health evaluation. He's due back in court next month. David?
Trevor, thank you. Now to the developing headline tonight at the Pentagon, where a top aide to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been placed on leave tonight, escorted from the Pentagon amid a leak investigation. Let's get right to Martha Raddatz. Martha, what have you learned tonight?
David, Pete Hegseth has been adamant that leaks will not be tolerated in the Pentagon, but this was surely a huge shock to Hegseth that one of his own top advisors, Dan Caldwell, has now been kicked out of the building after a leak investigation. Caldwell was escorted out of the Pentagon today by security and is now on administrative leave. Caldwell has such close ties to Hegseth that he was his point of contact with the NSC for strikes on the Houthis in Yemen during that signal chat last month. Caldwell was on that signal chain. Of course, Hegseth himself has been under fire for passing on attack plans on the signal chain. But this leak investigation began after a story about a possible top-secret briefing for Elon Musk was leaked and that a second carrier would be heading to the Mideast. But it is unclear exactly what story led to Caldwell being escorted out of the building. David?
All right, we know you'll continue to follow this for us. Martha, thank you. Next tonight to the battle escalating between President Trump and Harvard. Harvard rejecting the president's demand, saying no government, regardless of party, should dictate what private universities can teach and do. Tonight, the president is now freezing more than $2 billion in federal funds and is now threatening Harvard's tax-exempt status. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, in Cambridge, Massachusetts tonight.
Tonight, 24 hours after Harvard refused President Trump's demands, President Trump escalating his threats against the university, now suggesting the university should lose its tax-exempt status if it continues its defiance. The president posting today perhaps Harvard should be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired / supporting sickness. But critics of the president say it's Trump who's playing politics with academic institutions. The White House freezing $2.2 billion in federal funding to Harvard after the university refused to comply with a series of demands, including reporting to federal authorities foreign students who commit conduct violations, submitting to an audit to ensure academic departments have diverse viewpoints, ending all DEI programs, sharing hiring data with the administration, and submitting to an audit of admissions data. The school's president, Alan Garber, writing, no government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue. And tonight, with about $7 billion in federal funds still on the line, Harvard doubling down, vowing it will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Neither Harvard nor any private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government.
So with the university saying that it's not going to surrender, where does this go next?
One place it could go is court. What the Trump administration is doing is illegal, and the university has a very strong legal position here that the First Amendment and the Civil Rights Act do not permit what the Trump administration is demanding.
The administration targeting about 60 universities and claims what's driving this is their effort against anti-Semitism. Harvard says it has taken steps to combat anti-Semitism, and critics of the president say this is about much more than that. And tonight, the acting president of Columbia, also a target of the White House, addressing the university's efforts to restore $400 million in canceled funding, saying they're working with the administration but would reject any agreement that would require us to relinquish our independence and autonomy as an educational institution.
And David, of course, Harvard with that over $50 billion endowment. And while scientific research is on the line, university officials say it's not a piggy bank that could be just mined for anything. And the university president making it clear that no government should dictate to a private university what it should teach and do. David.
Matt Gutman in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Matt, thank you. We turn tonight to the new CDC report on the autism rate in America. 1 in 31 children now diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And what HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now promising to do by September. ABC's Steve Osunsami at the CDC in Atlanta.
Authorities at the CDC are trying to explain what's behind new numbers tonight, showing that 1 out of every 31 children in America was diagnosed with some measure of autism in 2022, the latest figures available. Those numbers were 1 in every 36 children just 2 years earlier, and 1 out of every 150 children in the year 2000. And the report shows that autism was much more common in boys than girls. U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, who for years as a civilian helped blame autism on the use of vaccines, is underlining the new numbers tonight. His take on this has been rejected by the world medical community.
In my generation today, the rate of autism is 1 in 10,000. And this is just one disease.
Other health officials this evening are explaining that the larger numbers are because parents and doctors are now much more aware of the disease and are now correctly identifying more symptoms. Not a reason, they say, to buy into unproven theories that discourage Americans from using vaccines.
So now we have better diagnosis, broader recognition of autism spectrum. So many children with less severe learning and behavior differences are being included in these new rates. Autism is not new, and it is not caused by vaccines.
Kennedy has ordered scientists here at the CDC and across the federal government to investigate what causes autism and has promised that he may start to have answers as soon as September. David?
Really important reporting. Affects so many families, Steve. Thank you. When we come back here tonight, you'll see the 30 endangered right whales spotted right off the coast in the Northeast off Cape Cod and a 5-year-old calf tangled in fishing gear. Also tonight, we remember a popular game show host and the $5 million jewelry heist. The store ransacked the hole in the wall. How they did this in a moment here. Tonight, authorities are investigating a jewelry store heist in Los Angeles. At least $5 million in jewelry stolen. Police say the family-owned store was ransacked. Owners say the thieves stole jewelry and gold bars, knocked out the surveillance cameras. Authorities believe thieves broke in right through a wall. The owners are offering $100,000 in cash reward for any information. Tonight, about 30 endangered right whales have been spotted right off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Take a look. The whales include multiple pairs of mothers and calves. Marine experts say the rich feeding grounds drawing them in. But there is concern for a 5-year-old calf entangled in fishing gear since December. Some of that gear, but not all, has been removed. When we come back here tonight, we remember a well-known game show host. To the Index tonight, former game show host Wink Martindale has died. Known for tic-tac-toe, gambit, and high rollers, more than 20 game shows during his career. Wink Martindale was 91. Tonight, Major League Baseball paying tribute to an all-time great and a trailblazer. On this day every year, every team honoring Jackie Robinson. Every player will wear his number 42, honoring his breaking baseball's color barrier. When we come back here tonight, what the elephants did during the earthquake in California yesterday, what the cameras revealed, and why they did it. Finally tonight, here the elephants and the circle they formed. It was a moving scene captured during that strong 5.2 magnitude earthquake in Southern California yesterday. The elephants instinctively forming a circle to protect their young. The elephants at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park in Escondido, California, begin running as the earthquake hits, the surveillance camera shaking. Then the older elephants rushing to protect their young, forming what's called an alert circle around the youngest of their herd. The adults standing in that tight circle there, facing outward, shielding the calves. The zoo sharing the remarkable images, reminding us elephants are highly intelligent social animals who have the unique ability to feel sounds through their feet. And this was their natural response to a perceived threat to defend the vulnerable. Right here tonight.
Hello, David.
Marco Wendt, Wildlife Ambassador at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance.
We are all connected with Mother Nature, and this was an excellent reminder of the beauty and the nuances of wildlife. What a really unique and very special moment for us that we can share with your audiences and around the world.
Telling us the elephants were all unharmed, the circle dispersing once they determined all of the elephants were safe.